Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of our podcast series, Introducing New Artists, Conversations with Visual Arts Majors at UCSD. I'm Professor Amy Adler, a faculty member in the Viz Arts Department. In this series, I'm speaking with studio art honors students about their artistic evolution, creative processes, and the unique challenges facing emerging artists today. I'm particularly interested in understanding how our students navigate the complexities of developing their artistic voices while preparing to launch their careers in an ever-changing professional, political, and personal landscape. Today, I'm joined by Lauren, a senior in our honors program, whose interdisciplinary work spans sculpture, painting, installation, and performance, and explores spirituality, nature, and the importance of the handmade in art in an increasingly digital world. Drawing from Eastern philosophies and her Filipino heritage, Lauren creates immersive experiences that challenge patriarchal and religious structures while celebrating the beauty of the natural world. I'm also joined today by 12 other students from the Studio Art Honors class. Hello! Yay. We're excited to learn more about Lauren's practice and her artistic evolution during her time at UCSD and hear her perspectives on what it means to be an emerging artist in 2025. So let's begin our conversation. Greetings, Lauren.
Hello.
Hi. Could you start by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yes, I'm Lauren Reed, and my age is 26. So I'm a senior at UCSD. I'm majoring in studio arts and climate change as a minor.
So tell us a little about yourself, Lauren. What drew you to study art at UCSD, and what were some key experiences or turning points that led you all the way here to being a senior in the honors program?
So I started getting really obsessed with art in sophomore year of high school. I was actually dating this guy, and it seemed like he was having like an existential crisis every 2 weeks, and that really affected me. I was like, why is he so he just something's going on. He didn't want to spend his whole life with a job that he hated, and that really impacted me because I realized I don't want to do that either. And I realized how much I liked art, and I would just spend all day, any time I could in the art room. And then after high school, I had a solo show in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, and that was a very impactful time for me because I was really questioning what I want to do for the rest of my life, and am I going to be able to make it as an artist? And I really, honestly, I felt like I couldn't. It didn't feel like I had the guts to do it at first. So then I majored in anthropology when I came back to San Diego, and then I went back to art because I was like, no, I'm obsessed with art, and I'm gonna find a way to do it any way I can because I can't live without it.
That's a great answer. So tell us a little about your work. What are some of your themes that you work with, and what are you exploring in your art practice right now?
So right now I'm working on an altar, and I just want to kind of highlight and appreciate the beauty of nature, and kind of bring back, in my own way, a sense of spiritual connection to nature that I feel is very lost in the modern world. And I feel like most of us were raised with a religion that we don't necessarily feel connected to. And I feel like it's so important to have a sense of strong connection to nature in this way. Otherwise, it's just going to always feel alienated from us and disconnected from us.
You work with painting, sculpture, installation, and performance, which is quite a range. So how do you make decisions about which medium or combination of media best serves each concept you want to explore?
So that's actually difficult for me in the beginning, because in the beginning of the Studio Honors program, I kind of felt all over the place, and that I wanted to do so many different things, and I'm really interested in all types of different media, but then I think what really helps is just a time constraint, like a stark
deadline?
Yeah, a stark deadline. Then it's like, okay, you just have to focus now, and otherwise, then you're just going to have nothing to show.
Yeah, I mean, artists would be lost without deadlines, I think.
Yeah.
We really need them. You talk about, in your artist statement, you talk about using the full spectrum of colors and being influenced by certain artists like Salvatore and Fernando Armosola. Solo. So, yeah, I just thought maybe you could talk a little bit about your painting practice specifically, because as I look around, that seems to be one of your primary practices. And talk about how you think about using color in depicting landscapes and figures.
I think looking at my paintings, and knowing my history, I think I'm really into purple. Well, yeah.
Clearly.
I don't know. I can't really get away from it. Like, I try to add different, like, I really also like the cadmium orange. I think that's a really beautiful color. And I think it really complements the purples, the deep purples that I'm using. But I think the colors that I'm drawn to, they feel really deep and calm, and there's like a certain wisdom to them that I feel like it's hard to like
A kind of spiritual space, in a way, they create.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
Or a kind of light. That's very uniquely yours.
Thank you.
And what about those painters, do you find influential?
I really like Salvatore's paintings because I think he is achieving that too. Like, his spaces feel they just feel calm, and he feels, or it seems like he's very attentive to the present moment, and just giving a certain tenderness to his subjects that I really appreciate. And I feel like the color really helps aid in that experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Which kind of leads nicely into the next question, which is that you mention being half Filipino and daydreaming about being in Fernando Armosolo's idyllic rural paintings. So let's talk about your connection to a place that you've never been.
Oh,
right?
I have been there.
Okay.
I was very young.
Very young. So, but you reference this kind of space in your paintings. And can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think I'm daydreaming about that more and more, because all around us is like concrete and asphalt, and like you don't really have like an easily accessible space in nature. So I'm just getting like, I don't know, after a long day, it just feels really tiring and like not refreshing as it were, because you can feel it when you're in nature. You get refreshed, and well, some people, not everyone, but for me, I feel like there's a sense of like refreshing aspect, and I don't get that when I'm just surrounded by artificial landscapes and spaces.
Do you feel like painting nature brings you into that kind of space that being in nature feels like?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it's not the same, but it's kind of like, I think of it kind of like as like an antidote or like a medicine, or like, I don't know, a way to like escape from the hellscape.
I'll never forget something. We went on a field trip this weekend to Los Angeles, and we spent the whole day going to galleries, and the sun was setting, and you guys were all heading home, and you said to me, is there somewhere, we were in Chinatown, which couldn't be more urban, and you was like, is there somewhere we could go that's like with nature?
In LA.
In LA.
Like,
at 6 o'clock at night.
Probably not that many places.
It was so cute, I thought. Yeah, I'll always remember that, actually. So you like to work with lots of different kinds of materials. And you mentioned working with natural materials. So can you talk about that? Like about the actual physical things that you use to make your work and the significance of them?
Well, so right now I'm mostly working with painting and I am also working with felt. I'm making a felt tree for the middle of the altar. And the table is made out of wood. And I also am collecting some rocks, and sometimes I collect some sticks and do stuff with them. Because I really like just touching the natural material. It feels like, I don't know, it feels more connecting than touching, say, synthetic like plastic or anything or something like that. So, yeah, I think I much prefer natural materials.
I wish the listeners of this podcast could see your palette or your palettes. You have multiple palettes, but they look like the most elaborate pizza you could possibly order, like with a thick dough, and then they have these incredibly thick paint. Like
Yeah.
they're actually quite amazing. They look like pie, like paint pie.
Like cake. A lot of people
Cake.
say they look like cake.
It's amazing. Okay, so let's see if we have a question from our audience. Does anybody have a question for Lauren?
Okay, how would you say, how explicitly would you want like the political themes in your work to be read by an audience and getting the message across?
Oh, that's a good question. I like that. I am thinking about politics a lot and in the future. And I think with this particular piece, it's not explicitly political or like directly telling you something, but I think everyone can get it because we all kind of know what's going on. So it's not like particularly political, but I would like people to feel really safe in the space that I'm creating, which would be a direct contrast to how most of us are feeling.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it leads beautifully into our next question, which is about the kind of state of the world and the rapidly changing conditions with AI, economic shifts, evolving social media landscapes. So what drives you to create art despite these uncertainties, and how do you see your work responding to this moment we're in?
So I think it's really helping me stay sane creating art, and I think even though there's so many problems in the future, I think artists are gonna play a big role in like imagining different worlds, imagining how we can create a different world, and yeah, that's my.
And you talk about your interest in the handmade versus the digital. Do you want to say anything about that? Because that is an interesting perspective from an artist of your generation, growing up with iPads and screens and now AI taking over. How do you feel about materials and making things?
I really just think AI is complete bullshit. It's useful in some ways, but like, I rather live in a world where everything is made by people and people are not exploited, because the AI is really just another a replacement for people who are already being exploited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. It's a big, big question that we're all facing. And so it is really interesting to me when young artists are kind of returning to kind of a manual, physical process and turning away from screens and digital interventions and AI.
Yeah, a lot of people are just tired of it. Yeah, I think there's a big return to the analog.
That's amazing. So now that you're approaching graduation, what advice would you give to a freshman or sophomore just starting out in the Viz Arts department at UCSD? Are there any specific tips for navigating classes, professors, or resources you wish someone had told you earlier?
Well, I wish I would have made community earlier in my school time, because I feel like I finally have community from the studio honors, which I think is so important for. I think I feel so lucky to have this space. So yeah, community, friends, and just, I don't know, start doing things on your own and talk to as many. I feel like I wish I would have talked to more professors too. Like, I know you can do a coffee, like buy a coffee, or the school buys a coffee for a professor for you. So I think that's a good thing to do. Yeah, I think.
Just making connections, I think, is really important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with graduation approaching, what challenges do you anticipate in your transition from student to professional artist? And how are you preparing for this shift in terms of the summer, studio space, finding ways to support yourself in your practice? What kind of plans do you have?
Well, I have one more year after this, so I'm not exactly graduating, but I still am doing things to propel me into the real world. Me and my friend Malika are starting a business, and we're going to have regular markets selling candles and crafted objects. So I hope that takes off, because I don't want a normal, boring job. I'd rather make money from doing that.
Do you think that graduate school is in your future?
Yes, but I want to take a good amount of break
Good idea.
before.
Wise decision. Great. So thank you, Lauren, for this very thoughtful conversation today. I've been so impressed with how you've created this deeply personal practice that aims to challenge traditional religious structures while honoring nature and the natural world. Your commitment to handmade and handcrafted objects and paintings and installations and tangible objects over the digital offers a powerful contrast to this increasingly virtual world. And your human interactive installations invite others to participate in a physical and inclusive form of meditation and contemplation, which is very exciting. So thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. This concludes Season 1 of Introducing New Artists, Conversations with Visual Arts Majors at UCSD. I want to thank UCSD Visual Arts Department for making this series possible. Congratulations to the Studio Art Honors Class of 2025. It has been a pleasure speaking with you guys today. Thank you, everybody. Woo! All right. Well, until next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.